Hey, I'm Steve Krentz, and welcome to this great lesson on the classic Christmas song, Hark the Herald, Angels Sing. It was written in 1739 by George Whitefield, and Charles Wesley put together the words, but it wasn't until actually 100 years later that a British musician, William Cummings, put the melody that we know, which was from actually a secular song by Felix Mendelssohn. We married those words to that melody 100 years later. So the old songwriting thing of what comes first, the words or the music, in this case, the lyrics started 100 years prior in 1739, and were actually put to a very slow and somber melody way back then, and then over the decades and the hundreds of thousands of people that were singing at that time, it kind of evolved, as some of these carols do. They often evolve as the decades and even centuries go by. So it was 100 years later that the words that we know and sing today finally got kind of put into the right order of the three verses that are typically played for Hark the Herald, Angels Sing, and then they added it to a secular melody by Felix Mendelssohn from a completely different work, and that turned into be the song that we sing today, Hark the Herald, Angels Sing. Quite often that happens, where you will put sacred lyrics to a secular song of that time. It happened many times with songs and Christmas carols particularly. So, and it happened in this one as well. So there you go, a little bit of history of Hark the Herald, Angels Sing. Make sure you download the PDF that goes along with this lesson, and we will get started. Let's take a look at the first page of that PDF. Let's talk about some of the basics. Hark the Herald, Angels Sing in most hymnals and chorus books is written either in F or in G. Okay, those are the kind of the two keys that they mainly come in. Now, the examples that you're going to see in this lesson are all in the key of C. That it just lands a little bit better on guitar played in the key of C, and it's much easier for the arrangements that are coming. This lesson will include the melody and the traditional chords, as well as three different arrangements of this great song, each with a different, bringing out a different aspect of the song. So it's as far as the form goes, it's 20 measures long. It's kind of an odd mix of measures. You have 8 bars of the first part of a verse, 8 bars of the next part of the verse, and then you have what's called a refrain, and that is the last 4 bars, and that all put together adds up to the 20 measures of Hark the Herald, Angels Sing. Now, the original arrangements that we have in this section, the melody and the basic and the intermediate arrangement are those in the key of C. The jazz, not really jazz, but more of an advanced fingerstyle arrangement is in the key of D at the very end. The song is in 4/4 time, meant to be played with a very straight meter. It's generally, even though it started out as a slow and somber song, as far as tempo-wise, it goes from, what do I have written down here, from about 80 beats per minute to about 115 beats per minute. So definitely square in the middle of moderate tempos. So that's how that would go. Flip over to the next page. This is page 2. Let's take a look at the melody and the traditional chords. Now, just to make this more accessible and easy to be played, I put this in the key of C, and we're going to play it in the open position here. So it starts off on the open G. Now, I didn't even bother putting in too many fingering notes along the way, just because in the open position, it's all pretty standard down there. The only thing that you have to stretch up for is in the refrain on the next page, measure 13, it goes up to a high A, and that would be with your pinky. But we start off open G, first finger C, third finger G here, then it just does this again, first finger, third finger here, that was the first 8 bars of the verse. Here's the second 8 bars of the verse. First finger here. Third finger G here. Here comes the refrain. The next page, I reach up with my 4th finger and kind of stretch up to that high A. Back down into position. 3rd finger, 8th notes. Then it repeats that 4-bar refrain again. There you go. So that refrain there at the end, sometimes it's once, sometimes it's twice there for the final 4 bars of that. And that's basically the melody. Nothing too complicated about that. Here's the demo of that. If you can, let's try and play this together. I'll count you in. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. There you go. Now, if you're playing this in a hymnal sort of a version of it, it's very blocky as far as the chords go. Chords linearly, straight up and down. Okay, a lot of these carols kind of tend to have that sort of a feel about them, which makes them a little bit difficult to accompany on guitar when you have that sort of straight up and down feel to them. So how do we accompany on guitar if I wanted to play the chords? All right, so take a look at the chords. Okay, we're back on page 2. We're taking a look at the chords. Just straight C's and G's. I think there's an F, an A minor, D7. So pretty basic open chords there. But how do you accompany on guitar? This is always a trick with playing hymns, carols, things like that. Sometimes they lend real well to a nice strumming pattern. Sometimes they don't. This is one of the ones that doesn't. So you pretty much have to play just straight 8th notes. I'm just kind of playing arpeggiated 8th notes. If I wanted to do it with a pick, I just arpeggiate those 8 notes. Every now and then, as needed, I just have to switch to down strums with a chord. It just doesn't lend itself real well to going da, 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 da. It just takes it into a weird place of making it sound a little less formal than it is. It's a formal song. So my advice to you on that is arpeggiate. Arpeggiate. Even if you're playing with a pick or fingerstyle, just arpeggiate with rock solid straight 8th notes. Okay? So I would do something like this. Ready, and... Occasionally jumping between chords when they come fast, and they do in a couple of spots. They start jumping. Then I just do down strums. Okay, so you try and play this with me. We're going to slow the tempo down just a little bit and play this with just straight 8th notes. So this will be starting on page 2, the chords. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And there's a little bit about how you would approach the chords to it. Hymns and carols are at times pretty tricky to play on guitar. The chords come at awkward times. On piano, they come, it's kind of a blocky sort of approach to it, and it works. On guitar, it's less clear. So in instances like that, I would just go straight with arpeggiated eighth notes, occasional chords. If it's just too much, just do the melody. If you're playing with a bigger group and lots of people playing, then I would just play the melody at those times. All right, so there you go. That's the melody and the traditional chords. Flip over the page to page 4, and we're going to look at a simple, basic fingerstyle, not even a fingerstyle. You can play this with a flat pick arrangement of the song. Okay, we're still in C, and I tried to put a little tempo indicator there of about 100 beats per minute in the upper left-hand corner there. Now, you'll notice there's lots of chords, and they're all straight up and down. Not anything is arpeggiated in this. Okay, so you end up with an arrangement that sounds that sort of a feel to it. Now, so you can play it with a flat pick. If you want to play it with a fingerstyle, then some of these chords I had notated as if you're playing with a flat pick, so it'll go through all 6 strings. If I'm playing them fingerstyle, of course, I'm only able to hit maybe the bass line, the bass note, and 2 or 3 of the upper strings. So just you have to adjust it at that way of looking at it. Generally, I want the notes to be as long as possible. I want them to sustain as long as possible. So even though I'm moving the melody notes around with the stems up, that's the melody notes, these bass notes, you'll notice even in that first measure, those bass notes are half notes, meant to they're meant to hold out, okay? So let's get started, and it starts out with a basic C chord. I take my first finger off, A minor. It's a G chord, but I don't have my pinky down. A C with an E in the bass, just the bottom 4 strings. With my pinky on that high G there. F2 there. I catch that F underneath my little first finger bar there. Block chords there. The C chord, then the G chord just down to the 2nd string D, to the C. So you got to be careful. Even though we're playing, basically versions of these chords, you have to be careful where you land so you can catch the right melody note there. The next line is exactly like the same, the top one. Here it changes. Basically the top half of a G chord, G5 coming down with that pinky on that D, a G, then just a D and an A, G, D, and G, kind of muting that 5th string out there. Okay, and that's the first part of the verse. The next part of the verse on page 9, or excuse me, measure 9, page 4, we're going to do top half of a G chord, chord, note, D minor, C triad, and then an F with a G. That's the 3rd fret. Be careful. That's at the 3rd fret. Open F, open G, and 3rd fret D. 3rd finger on the F, pinky on that D. Then it does this again. D minor, C, C, bottom half of a G7. Then I reach out here for this high A and just play that. And then I add to it the A and the C sharp here with this 1st finger bar at the 2nd fret. So that means that G is played with my 2nd finger. D minor, A7, D minor. Back to that G7 we did before. C with an E with that high G like we did before. Block chords. Okay, I reach out for this A, add the bar, D minor, A7, D minor. Let me mention a note on that D minor. You can play this with the third finger, second finger, third finger, first finger, or as you're going to need to do in the later versions of this, you're going to need to play this with your pinky on that second string rather than your third finger, leaving the third finger to play some other things, okay? So just be aware that sometimes in this version, you can use the third finger, that's fine, but in the other versions, you're going to need to use that pinky there. And then we have the G like we did before. So the only thing is you have to be careful where to end these chords so that we have the right melody note. So let me play it all the way through here for you. 1, 2, ready, and. There you go. Okay, flip the page and let's take a look at the next arrangement of it. So this builds on the basic arrangement that we did, but I'm going to play this one instead of with a pick. I'm going to play this one fingerstyle. So when I'm doing the fingerstyle, I'm going to a couple of things on how it's notated. Basically, I'm wanting everything to ring. So all of these arpeggiations within the chord, all these little inner notes and bass notes, I'm wanting those all to hold. So even though that bass note in the first measure, we have a C and an E, I'm wanting those to be played and held. So you need to let everything ring. Do you hear how even though it's written as an eighth note, the note still rings until I change the chord? That's kind of how one of the idiosyncrasies of notating guitar music is that it's written as if it's just an eighth note, but it's actually, as long as that chord is in play, those notes are holding out, unless it tells you otherwise. But generally, all of these notes in all of these chords are going to be held out until the next chord changes them, until the next chord kind of replaces them. All right, so take a look at this one. Still in C, still the same, basically the same chords that we did before, a couple little twists and turns and some inversions and things like that, but basically the same sort of harmonic arrangement of it, but I just add some inner notes. So I would play this first measure. Okay, C and a G, thumb and second finger, and then my first finger would play that inner E, leaving my second finger to reach down and catch that high C. That's the motion. Practice that motion a couple times. You're going to do that motion about 100 times in this song. Okay, so we do that. Then I do that same motion again with an A minor 7. Just take that third finger off. I invert those inner notes. Now I'm forming kind of an F2. Same motion again. G and an E. I have a root note, I have a melody note, a bass note, and then the arpeggiation comes in later. It's a specific style of accompanying that is fairly easy on guitar once you get the pattern of it. keeping in mind those low bass notes are holding out through all of that. Then I have a C with an E in the bass, which is this chord, but I'm going to add that low E to it. An F now with, I'm just hitting the 6th string and then the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. C, G with a B in the bass, 2nd finger on the B, pinky on that D. Play the outside notes and then I arpeggiate. So if you'll notice, this is important. When you do this sort of arpeggiation in guitar, you have 2 directions the arpeggiation can go. You hit the melody note and the bass note, and then the arpeggiation can go up, or the arpeggiation can go down. Which one is right? I'll give you a secret. It doesn't matter. It's just an arpeggiation inside of the chord. So as far as what's important, the melody is number 1. The bass is number 2. These inner notes, those are number 3. I mean, that's kind of the least important part of the whole arrangement is these inner notes. So don't worry if you play a G and you should have played an E, or you play the G first and then the E first and then E first. I don't care. They're just the inner notes of it. So whether it goes up or down, but just notice it goes either one of 2 ways. It's not not all of that complicated. The arpeggiation either goes up or down. There's just 2 ways that goes. All right, then we get to measure 5. It's the same as we did before, except the bass line changes a little bit. A word about that chord change right there. You'll notice it just has a slash with a B. No other chord symbol, because it's not really a chord. It's just telling you basically that the C chord is still holding, but I'm changing that bass note. So I couldn't really make a chord out of that. I'm just telling you that the bass note went down. A minor 7, D with an F sharp, D2 with an F sharp, 2nd finger on that low F sharp. Melody note, bass note, and then the arpeggiation goes up this time. A G5, 2nd finger on that G, pinky on that high, 2nd finger on the low G, pinky on the high G. That frees your 1st finger to catch that B. Then you got to reach back, block chords, G, D with the F sharp. Arpeggiation goes down. Now here comes the fun part. Right here at measure 9, it sounds like this. So you'll notice through that whole thing, my 3rd finger is planted on that G. He never moves. So I hit that 1st octave, open G, and pinky, 4th finger on that high G, and then every upbeat is a low G. So notice what my thumb is doing down here. He's doing double duty. He's hitting the lower notes of the parallel notes, and then he's also hitting the thumb, so he's jumping. And I'm basically here, I'm just using my thumb and my 2nd finger, thumb and middle. So thumb is going back and forth as he's jumping between these different notes on the 3rd and 4th string. 1st finger on the C, 2nd finger on the E, low E, move those 1st and 2nd, down a string, off. Just a single D there, then we do that again. Now that may take a few minutes for you to get. Once you get it, you kind of go, once you get the pattern of it, then it falls into place really easily. So don't panic about that. Let's try that, just those 4 bars one more time. Measure 9, ready, and keep that 3rd finger on that G. Very good. Refrain. Next page, page 13 or measure 13. I slip up here to the 3rd position. first finger on the F, C on the 3rd string 5th fret, and then high A at the 1st string 5th fret. An A chord, reaching back for that bar like we did in the other arrangement. Here's where I said D minor, but you got to use your 4th finger. Because right here, you hit that C with the 3rd finger, and then B and a D, 2nd and 4th, which frees my 1st finger to catch this F. Back to a C with an E sort of a shape. C with an E. G with a B. C chord, arpeggiation that goes up. Then we do that again. Pinky on that D. 3rd finger, 2nd and 4th. 1st finger. 1st finger. Now a big old bar F. Arpeggiation that goes up. A G, an interesting G. G7th with the 2nd finger on the G. 3rd finger on that F on the 4th string. Open G, pinky on that D. So it's a little bit of a different F7, but just because we needed to fit that 7th in there underneath that D. And then there's the C chord. All right, so let me play it for you. A little bit of a retard there at the end to emphasize the ending chords there. All right, and there you go. There's the kind of the intermediate, more of a fingerstyle arrangement of it. All right, you ready to go? Let's get to the big one. Flip the page. All right, so if we look at page 8, I put this not in the key of C. We raised it up 2 steps, and so we're in the key of D for this one. And I played it in the opening here so you can kind of get it in your ear. This is more of an advanced modern fingerstyle arrangement of it. There's some pops and clicks and things like that, and the complexity kind of jumps up quite a bit. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking through this and the chords that are involved. I start off with a D2 with an F sharp in the bass, kind of a, I'm doing this fingerstyle, just a big bar at the 2nd fret. I catch the high D with my 2nd finger there. And then we're going to go to the G6-9. If I can get my ears working there. The G6-9. All right, I'm just going to take these out. The G6-9, maybe I can put these back in if I can find the little input. No, I'm not going to worry about it. So the G6-9, I have the 2nd finger on the G, and then I have the 1st finger that's barring the 4th and 3rd string. 3rd finger on that D. Now, here's how the rhythm goes. That's where it starts. arpeggiating down, and then the A bar there, and then a B minor 7th, G major 9th, open E. So those first 2 bars would be okay, so it's all right in there real tight. Then I go to a D with an F sharp in the bass. And then I just slide. So that D with an F sharp in the bass, I've got my F sharp, which is barred down here, and then goes to the A, then the second finger on the D, reaching out to that high A there. And then I just scoot up my first finger, arpeggiate down, little hammer on 6 there, A with an F sharp, to a B with a G, and then I go da, da, da on an A, D with an A 7th, D, and then I do a little filigree, a little arrangement going down. Don't get too knocked out with the 30-second notes and things like that. It's just filigree. It's just ornamentation. Get the combination of notes. Don't overly worry about the rhythm. Then it does this again. Just like it did before. Except this time I go to the E2 with a G sharp. Now, again, because the notes are so tight, it has to offset a few, but they are all played at the same time. 4th finger on the E, excuse me, on the G sharp, on the 6th string. The E is on the 4th string, 2nd fret. Pinky is on the 3rd string, 4th fret. Hit that E with the 2nd string, 5th fret, and then bar that 1st finger down. Very wide chord. Then here, I usually slide from the B to the C sharp, up to an A2 with a C sharp, B major 9th, arpeggiate down. I do a little hammer on here. A, E, A. All right, so that full first part, if I played that super slow, it would be this first page, page 8, ready, and... There you go. And then it has this little arpeggiation up. And then sliding up to that C sharp. Getting up the neck there. Next page, A5. An A, and then an A on the 3rd string. E on the 2nd string. And high A, little bar there. 2nd finger on the D. And then he slides up to the E minor, the high G in the E minor. That little... You'll notice we've done that move probably 3 times so far. It's a very common move to do on a minor going back to the major. Those little triads there. 6th down, then it does it again. Now, instead of doing that again, okay, just to make it a little bit more harmonically interesting, I did a little 2-5 of the minor instead of the major. So I did like a little 2-5 of the, what would that be, the B minor, but I don't actually go to the B minor. So the 2 would be the C sharp minor 7 flat 5, moving that first finger down, F sharp augmented to the F sharp 7 there. So that top line would be Hear how that just changes the tonality just for there for a second, just gives it a little bit of harmonic interest. And then I fool you, I don't go to the 6 minor, I go to the 4. And now I give the little 2-5 to the 2 minor. Let's see. F minor 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B augmented, B7, E minor, and then I just arpeggiate that. So that measure there in second line. A7. Second finger on the low G, everything else is barred. D with the F sharp. G5. F sharp augmented. Then I go down and up. And I play this again. Hear how nicely that bass line descending makes that arpeggiation feel? There you go. Okay, so a complicated arrangement, a pretty advanced arrangement of that, but as you're going through things, just work on them nice and slow, slow that video down if you need to, and practice each individual move, then slowly adding them all together. Don't overly worry about the ornamentation, all the little 16th notes and 32nd notes that are flying around there. Get the main parts of the chord first, and then you can add that ornamentation. So let me play it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. A little bit of Hark the Herald Angels Sing. I gave you a bunch of different arrangements that you can work on it. If you're not ready for the advance, just stay on the melody, learn the chords, find the level of this song that you want to jump into that's still going to be a challenge for you, and jump in there and learn all you can. Hey, I'm Steve Krentz for Guitar Gathering. Thanks for being on this holiday Christmas song journey with us. Keep up the great work. We'll see you next time.